Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner Evan Paparis. Brenda's not on the call with me today, but I do have another guest. Before we get into that, though, a quick word from our sponsor for this episode. This episode is brought to you by Fat Grips. So Fat Grips are basically rubber sleeves that go over barbells or dumbbells, and it makes it stress your grip strength when you're doing weight training. So definitely a great tool. I've been using them for a couple of years now. Since I started doing OCR, I use them on any time I touch a weight, period. They have the Fat Grips, which are the regular ones, and then Fat Grips Extreme, which is even wider ones. So definitely an awesome product. If you train with weights and you're an OCR athlete, I would definitely pick some up. They're also a sponsor of Endure the Gauntlet, my upcoming charity run in August. All right, let's get into today's guest. So today, joining me on the podcast, I have the female World's Toughest Mudder 2017 champion, Rhea Kolbl, who is also a member of the Spartan Pro Team. She's also won her first Toughest Mudder Series race this year, won 2 out of the 3 Spartan Point Series, or what used to be, I guess, the NBC Series, and is just all around crushing it. Last year, she had a total of 12 wins and 29 podiums. So, Rhea, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think you're the first Toughest Mudder champion we've had on. World's Toughest Mudder champion, actually.
Oh, nice.
So before I start jumping into the questions, I interviewed Rhea for my book, Motoring Guide's Ultra-OCR Bible, read through some of her training and stuff she does, and I'm going to go ahead and make the bold prediction on air, recorded so everyone can hear it. First woman to get 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder, I'm going to say is going to be Rhea. And maybe it's not this year, maybe it's not next year, but I think you're going to be the first one because you put in some insane training volume and you put in an insane performance last year. So that's my prediction. I'm looking at my crystal ball right now.
Well, thank you. I think it all depends on the venue, though. So I think Vegas was nice because it was like very dry, but doing the 8-hour version of it in Austin, it was very muddy, and I noticed the difference in a course that like my hip flexor was just shot after 8 hours. So the course moving, I feel like will make it like a whole new playground. So thank you for prediction, but I guess we'll see this year or maybe in the future.
Cool. Well, so before I started the podcast, I sent, before I talked to any of my guests, I asked them for a quick bio, just so I can pull some of the information from them and use it to form some of my questions. So when I sent that question to Rhea, I was like, hey, just shoot over a bio quick. She sent me back an athlete, or what she calls an athlete deck. So it's like her picture, some of her race highlights, and kind of what her plans are for 2018. And frankly, it's awesome. It's like 6 slides. It's like a quick brief of who you are as an athlete and all this good information about you, whether you're looking for, it's a great product to use for interviews or for podcasts or for getting potential sponsors. So first, let me ask you, where did you come up with something like this?
I actually got an idea for that from Tim Sinnott. So he's Rose Wetzel's husband. But I've got pretty tired of doing things over and over again, and I'm not very good at keeping Word documents on my computer and everything like that. So when people would ask me for my bio, I just kept writing it over and over again, and I thought that I was just repeating the same thing over, and instead of sitting in front of a computer, I could be running outside. And so this was actually a good way to just have it all in one place. And also just counting the races and the wins and all of that, it's very easy to forget about them. So it's easier to have it as a DAC in one place that I just update after every single race that I can then just send out when people ask me for it, rather than doing it over and over again. Because I feel like once you do it many times, then, it kind of gets boring, and then you start making it shorter and shorter and maybe omitting some information. But having it pre-made just makes it easier for me, and I guess also easier for people who are asking me for it, because it's all right there, and I try to make it pretty easy to just pick out the information that you find relevant out of it, rather than me trying to guess what the relevant information would be.
Well, it's awesome, and this is the 51st or 52nd episode of the Strength and Speed podcast, and I've asked that question, send over a bio to I don't know how many athletes, and you're the first one who's ever had like a pre-prepared piece of information to just shoot over to me, which is awesome, frankly.
It cuts the work down, I think, for both of us.
So I completely agree. So I basically encountered the same problem a couple years ago, and then I was like, well, why don't I basically made a section of the Strength and Speed website, basically like all about me and things I've done in the past. So that's what I do. I just have like an online, and I just update that. So, when I'm looking for a potential sponsor, I can shoot that to them, or, if I'm a guest, I can basically shoot them the link. So
yeah,
definitely a good idea. Anyone who's kind of looking to go down that route, or is, good idea, whether it be a website or just a slide deck you have constantly prepared. All right, so let's get into the actual questions about Rhea and training and all the good stuff you've done. I know you have a busy training schedule. Explain to me a week in the life of Rhea.
Rhea sleeps a lot. I guess that's like one big thing that I changed, now that I don't really have a job. But I think I sleep a lot because I also train a lot. So I would wake up in the morning, really try to do kind of without an alarm clock, because I want to have my body just tell me how much rest it needs. That's proving a little harder now that the summer's starting, because I have been out running at noon as my morning run when it gets really, really hot. So I might have to change that a little bit. But I pretty much wake up, when I wake up, usually around 9 or 10. And then the first thing I do is a run. I run about 10 to 15 miles in the morning, just depending on the terrain that I pick, so I do like a long run 2 times a week where I would go for over 2 hours, but it's usually also like just about 13 miles. It just means that it's more climbing and more technical trails, which all go slower. But normally I keep it like under an hour and a half, and just like see how many miles I get in that amount of time. And it's actually really nice because where we are, there's just so many trails. I don't think I've done a single trail twice. I've done like sections of trail twice, but you can always pick a new route. So it's always interesting and always a little bit different. And I try to do hills and some flats and like keep my flat speed, and then also work on my climbing. So I would do that in the morning, and then right after I'm done with that, I do some pull-ups, because I learned that if I don't do them right away, I don't do them. So I come home, do some pull-ups, eat breakfast, which sometimes happens at 2 p.m., but it's still the first meal, so I call it breakfast. And then in the middle of the day, I would do like a low impact activity. So I would either go for a hike, or I would go for a walk, or I would go ride my bike around, just trying to be outdoors and moving, but not doing anything high intensity. And I found that doing that, I actually recover better for my second workout, whereas on the days when I'm at home sitting down, usually I feel a lot more sluggish and tired in the afternoon. So I think it's just trying to be out and enjoying the sunshine, which there's plenty of in Boulder. And then in the evening, I do another workout, which is more OCR specific and targets more upper body. So I joined with Yancey Camp a few months ago, and so I do his workout 3 times a week, which is usually a killer. It combines some sort of cardio with upper body strength, and it's usually just circuits. Sometimes it takes me like an hour and a half, but usually it's about an hour that I spend in the gym in the afternoon. And then after that, I come home and my husband has dinner ready usually, and then do recovery too. I guess I squeeze in recovery between workout and dinner. I go to cryotherapy quite often. Sometimes I go to sauna if I still have time, which I usually don't, because I usually show up 5 minutes before closing. So really the 3-minute cryo session is all I have time for. And then after dinner, we would usually like watch TV or play some board games. And then repeat. So it's pretty much every day kind of looks the same. The only difference is that sometimes my runs are a bit longer, but other than that, it kind of blends in all now. I think last time I accidentally labeled something as a Sunday workout when it was actually Saturday, because it doesn't really matter to me except the gym closes earlier on a certain day, so that kind of lets me keep track. So yeah, that's kind of like every day, and then you make a week out of it. It's a lot different when I race, because I do taper before, and it takes me about a day or two to recover after, which now that the season has picked up seems to be almost every week I'm either racing or tapering. But yeah, still like trying to spend as much time outside as I can and just trying different things and new sports and things like that.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you have a very busy schedule and a pretty impressive work volume / intensity there. Now, I know you said you're racing, it feels like almost every weekend. So how do you balance, like you said, it feels like you're always tapering or recovering. How do you balance that and still manage to perform at such a high level?
I'm actually quite lucky that it doesn't take me super long to recover. So I would race, if I do a Spartan race, I'd race both Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday, I would just do like a run where I don't care how fast I go, but I don't really find that I need to cut my mileage down on that day at all. And then Tuesday, I'm usually back to normal running speed and 2 workouts a day. And then for tapering, I also found that if I taper too much, I actually feel pretty slow on a race day. So I start tapering Thursday. So Thursday I would do just 1 workout. Friday I would cut my mileage in half and also just do 1 workout. So really all in all, I maybe lose like 3 OCR specific workouts a week. But then when you're racing, I feel like that is probably the best workout you could do, because you are pushing yourself pretty hard and you're doing OCR. So I think just racing itself makes you better if you can maintain recovery and like taper in a way that you are 100% at races. I feel like it's really the best way to train.
Good answer. Again, I'm super impressed with how little you taper and how well you can still perform. I take 1, usually 2 rest days if it's an important race completely off beforehand. And if I don't, I feel very sluggish on race day if I don't like take a complete rest day beforehand. That's me personally, but
yeah, I feel like it works different for everyone, and it probably also has to do with the fact that I grew up doing sports, so my body is used to it, and I do sleep like probably 10 hours a day most of the days, and I probably eat for a family of 4. And I really try to like supplement my protein and supplement everything, that all the like biomarkers that seem to be low when I do the blood testing. So I really try to like make sure I do everything I can to bring the recovery time as low as possible.
Gotcha. So for 2018, are you focusing on a specific race series, or are you obviously you've done well in 2 of the first 3 Spartan series races, and you've also done one of the toughest. Are you planning on doing both Spartans, both toughest, or the toughest, and then anything else, or is it just those 2? What's your strategy this year?
Yeah, I wish I could do it all, but as far as like my plan goes right now, I'm doing the U.S. Championship series for Spartan, so the 5 races. That's now over half done. And then I was gonna do the toughest series, but it seems like it's not really a series anymore, where you do like the 3 races and then the combined mileage counted. But since it's in my schedule now, and I really do enjoy the 8-hour races, I think endurance is really like right down my alley, because you don't have to go so fast. So I'm doing Michigan this coming weekend, and then I'm doing probably the Sonoma, the NorCal one that was rescheduled from the one that was canceled early in March, for the toughest series. And then I love mountains, so I'm doing the Spartan Mountain Series. So I'm doing the 3 races out of there just to make it a series, and then doing the North American OCR Championship, because that was also moved from flat Texas to a ski slope in Vermont, so can't pass on that either. And then the 2 24-hour races, the World's Toughest Mudder, and I'm really excited to actually do Spartan this year in Iceland, because I saw those pictures, and those northern lights, like running under those, just sounds so amazing that I'm not sure if I'm going to be like at 100% or like it's so far ahead, but just being able to participate, I really don't want to miss that this year. So that's kind of like the big grand goal. I guess the bigger goal is to actually stay healthy and be able to do all of that.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you have a packed schedule and doing a little bit of everything. Now, the Spartan Mountain Series, it's 5 races, correct?
I think there's 6 races, but you only need to do 3.
Okay.
So I'm doing 3. I have one as a backup just in case if one goes not so well. But the plan is to keep it at 3, just because they're usually like a week before U.S. Championships race for Spartan. So just kind of want to balance wanting to do it all with actually doing well at the races that matter a lot.
So do you normally plan for a backup just in case, or do you typically like to put all your eggs in one basket for those series races?
So I guess for the U.S. Championship races, I'm doing all 5. And 4 of them will count towards the final score, just because I do want to, you never know what happens. It could be the venue that plays to all of your strengths, but then you get a cold the night before. So I feel like it's dangerous to assume that you're going to perform 100% at everything that you go to. But for the mountain races, just because it's a little bit less important race, it's more for things that I want to do, but not necessarily it's not as big of a series. So I'm only planning to do 3 with the backup one because it does fit in my schedule. So if it happens that I want to go to that one, I can. But otherwise, I think I'll probably just skip it just to have more time to recover in between the other races.
Cool. Again, sounds like a very packed schedule. Now, you kind of jumped ahead on some of the questions I was going to ask. So the first one I was going to ask was, are you planning on defending your World's Toughest Mudder title, which is clearly yes.
Yeah, that was a really fun race. I ran a lot of penalties, and I've been working on my upper body a lot, so I'm hoping to put those miles more into the miles that count. And I also had a lot of technical issues last year in terms of gear, so I feel like I learned a lot in that area. So I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement from last year. But then, as I said, it's going to be a completely new playground with probably bringing new challenges just because it's going to be more wooded, it's going to be darker and more muddy, and just I feel like it's going to be such a different race.
Yeah, and then I saw Spartan Iceland increase their prize purse. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but I know there's a substantial increase. Do you think that, and now you're doing both, you're doing World's Toughest Mudder and Spartan Iceland, do you think the increase in prize purse is going to draw some of the bigger names away from World's Toughest and into the Iceland race?
I'm not really sure, because I feel like if you do World's Toughest Mudder once, you probably want to do it again. So I don't know if a prize money would really draw you into a different race, but I feel like if you're a kind of person who loves World's Toughest Mudder, you would also want to do Iceland. So I feel like it's just trying to figure out if you can do both, and if not, maybe if you've already done one, you want to do now another one. So I think it really depends from person to person, but I think the high bonus is for going 100 miles in Iceland, and just looking at last year's results, I think the winners was at 65 miles, and I know that what was super challenging was all the ice on the terrain, so I feel like at that point you can't really go much faster than what the terrains allow you to. So I feel like for Iceland it depends a lot on the weather and the conditions at the race. So I personally don't want to not do other things and just plan on doing really well in one race, because it could be sleet and super icy and nobody would get anywhere. We would just all be sliding on our butts, or it could be perfect. So I'd rather do both and try to do well at both, and then just see what happens. Also doing a lot of burpees, I feel like tires you out a lot more than running penalties, which I think what makes the 100-mile goal at Iceland just a little bit harder, because you do have to do all those burpees for the failed obstacles. So I think it's just hard to get 100 miles there with the harsh conditions and all the environment. I feel like it would still be easier to get at the World's Toughest Mudder, which is why I'm not counting that race out at all. But I am definitely doing both, because Iceland in the winter sounds miserable, which sounds kind of fun as a race.
Yeah, we had Allison Ty on the podcast earlier this year, and she was talking about it, and it sounded, it sounded like a very interesting and kind of beautiful race with the Northern Lights. And she also said, similar to what you said about a lot of the terrain and the ice allowed for, it was a lot of like power hiking, she said. At least last year it was, specifically.
That's what I heard, and I did some ice running by an accident in Boulder when I didn't bring my micro spikes, and it's definitely like walking on eggshells. And if you go faster, you just fall faster. So I feel like at that point, it's not really up to you. It's more up to nature, really, what's possible to do and what's not, no matter how well prepared you are.
Now, you said you used micro spikes. Explain what those are for the audience.
Micro spikes are this wonderful thing that you put over your shoes. It's kind of like the ones that I have are like rubber band that goes around your shoe, and it has little spikes, metal spikes on the bottom. So when you're running on ice, you actually have traction. So you can run your normal run on an icy trail where without it, you would probably just slide off into a ditch, which has happened before. And it's really like whenever it's possibility of ice, I would always bring them. Because it takes so little to fall pretty bad on ice. And with those, it's a lot better. But I don't think you're allowed to have them at the Spartan race just because those things are pretty sharp. So if you fall and, like, crash into somebody, or if you go on obstacles with those, or if you, like, swing your legs and accidentally hit somebody in the thigh on monkey rings, I can see how that could be dangerous. So I don't think they allowed anything like that last year.
Have you used yak tracks before?
Yeah, I have used those, but they did not prove quite enough traction on the like super sheer ice. They're a little less pointy, so I feel like they'd be a little more, friendly to people next to you. But they don't work quite as well on like the sheer ice.
You must be running on like straight up ice, because I've used yak tracks and thought that's what I use. I think they're just amazing. So they're basically, again, similar thing, rubber that goes over your shoe, and it doesn't have actual spikes on it. It's basically just like, it's like a coil. It's like kind of the inside of like a ballpoint pen, like a metal like rings going around the bottom of your shoe, and it provides real good traction on ice and snow. I ran the Abominable Snow Race, kind of like a local OCR up in Wisconsin, and the
Colorado too.
What?
There's one in Colorado too. It's the same, yeah.
And so I was kind of on the fence if I was going to put on the yak tracks before the race, and I went for like a warm up run, made it like 10 feet, almost fell with my ice bugs, and then I was like, I'm just going to wear the yak tracks. And the race started with like 50 feet. It was basically like a slight uphill, and we started, and I went off running, and all I heard was people like falling behind me as like it was just sounded like a complete disaster. So
yeah,
definitely a good thing to have in your kit just in case.
In Boulder, a lot of the times the trail is a mix of rocks and ice, and so those yak tracks actually have rubber on the bottom too, which is how they break really easily, because if you step on a sharp rock, it's just going to cut through the rubber. And also people in Boulder don't really stop hiking when it gets very snowy, so they pack down the snow really, really hard, and then when it gets warm during the day, it melts, and then it freezes again. So there'd be like cases when everything is melted, and then on the single track is where all the ice is. So I feel like it's just a combination of people being out and pretty treacherous trails that makes like you really need like better traction devices.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know. One of the little rubber bands across the bottom of my yak tracks broke during that race, but it made it to the end of the race, so I was happy.
Nice.
For the most part. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, did you consider doing the Enduro Championships in Australia?
I got super excited because I was like, somebody is finally putting a 24-hour race in the summer. And then I realized actually also in the winter. I was considering after doing the World's Toughest Mudder last year, because I realized I really like this long, like 24-hour running, but it is smack in the middle of all the important like short races where you need to be fast. And after last year's 24-hour race, it did take about 2 weeks for me to get my speed back. So I just figured it's not a good idea throwing that in the middle of the season. I'd rather have two of those at the end, when then I can take some time off and just run slow and not care about how fast I go, and just give my legs a little bit of time to recover.
I can confirm that does wreck you pretty good. I did it last year and took me several weeks to recover, and then on top of that, like you said, it is still cold in June since it's in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah.
But it was funny was I had done the same thing actually like a year or two before that. I was like, oh cool, they have a race in June in Australia, and like totally forgot that it was reverse seasons down there. So, but obviously before I went down there, I picked up the necessary equipment, and it was same as World's Toughest Mother. It's wetsuit weather, so it'll be a cold race. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, this will probably come out right before that actually the race goes off. So
okay, nice.
Curious to see how it goes.
You follow along from a distance.
Now you're on the Spartan Pro team. Is this your second or third year on the team?
That's my second year.
Okay. And now I know the Spartan Pro team went through some adjustments over the last year. The roster used to be a lot bigger, and then they've kind of broken it out into Premier and Select. Can you just kind of give the audience kind of a rundown of what the difference is between those two and what the kind of intention was there?
Yeah. So I guess the main intention behind it is to just help the sport grow. You like 20 people is not enough to really have a sport that's out there and that people know about, and then it evolves and grows. So I think that was like the main intent of having the select team, is just to be able to provide more athletes with some sort of support to be able to go to more races and just race more and get better at it. As I said, like racing is probably the best training. So if you can give more people opportunity to be out there racing, then you're essentially growing the sport. And so what happened was last year, the pro team was 20 people, and so they shrunk that down to 5 this year. So it's me, Alyssa, Nicole, Ryan Kent, and Robert Killian that were on the pro team, and we're pretty much the ones who are at all of the U.S. Championship Series races, all the big races, and the Regional Championship and Tahoe World Championship. And we're pretty much the people who are like kind of top 5 at these like big serious races. And then there's 50 or so other athletes on the select team, which are the up-and-comers who are winning the races that are maybe more local to where they are, and maybe they can't really travel all around the country for it because, people have like jobs and families, and it's really hard to be traveling like every 2 weeks for a race. And so that's kind of the basic idea behind it, is to have these two different tiers of the pro team where they're growing the sport by having more people in it, and then also just giving them opportunity to, to like be out there and to like do the local races and do also the big U.S. Championship Series races if they want to.
Cool. Well, it sounds like a good way to help grow some of the top level of the sport, to kind of expand some of those perks down to some other people. So I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out over the next year, and if they continue with this model for next year, or if they go back to the old model, or kind of what the deal is. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, I think I got through most of the big questions I wanted to get through on your current year and your current way of training, but I wanted to jump backwards in time a little bit, because with the Strength and Speed podcast, we like to talk about other sports and how those cross over into OCR and some of the lessons you've learned from your previous background. So I know you did some gymnastics growing up, or for maybe not some, it was a lot, for a long time. So for the audience who may not be keyed in on that, just take us through some of your gymnastics background before you got into OCR.
Yeah, I pretty much did gymnastics from when I was able to like properly run around. So I started when I was 5 or 6, and I did it all the way until I was 17. And that was back when I was in Slovenia. So for most of that time, I was on the Slovenian national team. So we traveled a lot, we competed a lot. There were a lot of practices every day. We had trainings daily, pretty much for like 4 hours in the afternoon, and then a few times a week in the morning for another couple of hours. So it was just a big commitment. It was kind of like how I grew up, pretty much doing gymnastics and being in the gym. And I feel like it gave me a really good foundation to do any sport now. I feel like the coordination, everything, it translates to other sports. After I quit, though, like, it took me a while to really find myself. I got pretty chubby afterwards because when you're doing gymnastics, your diet is pretty strict. So I made it my mission to eat all of the ice cream that I'd never ate growing up, and I was pretty good at achieving that mission. And I kind of started running because I was just so out of shape and so unfit that something had to be done about it. And then I realized that I really did love running. And that was really the first time I was doing workouts outside. So I love being like on the trails in nature, which is something that, you know, in gymnastics, I was always inside the gym. And then just that kind of the love of just trail running, led to me being faster and faster. And so I started doing trail races and, got into ultra running. And then accidentally did a Spartan, which turned out to fit my background really well because I kind of developed already some of the running speed and endurance, and then like gymnastic skills you never really completely forget. So it was just kind of, it came natural how to move across monkey bars and go over walls and things like that. Well, maybe not walls. I still hate walls. But just other things. It was a little bit easier to like get into it. So it's like I was better from the get-go because I did have the gymnastics background.
Cool. Well, if you could say kind of one big lesson you took from gymnastics that you've kind of applied to OCR, what would you say that would be?
I think the main thing was just you should keep trying if you're not good at something. So there are a lot of times when you would like fall and then the coaches would make you do it right again because they were like, if you wait, you're just going to be scared of it. And so it's kind of similar with OCR. Like if you don't get across the wall the first time, just keep trying it and eventually you'll figure out how to do it. So I think it's just the perseverance and just like working through pain. I feel like I don't really have trouble being in the pain cave for a long time, and it's just because what I grew up with from being very little. And one thing I like about OCR too is, I guess after I quit gymnastics, there was this like giant time that I had during the day that I didn't know what to do with. And a lot of other sports I looked into, they were maybe like an hour and a 2-hour daily commitment. So I was really looking for something that would occupy me for a much longer period of time every day. And I feel like I finally found that in OCR because there's just so much you need to work on. And like some of it is like running, which you really can't do for that long every day. But then there's also other skills, like there's like spear throwing, there's hanging on a bar, there's pull-ups, and it's just so much variety that you can really fill your every day with it and just keep doing that. And I think that's like what I really, really like. There's always something else to do and something to get better at.
I love that your reason for liking OCR is because it requires a lot of training time. When I think the average person in the population is like, what sport can I do where I can do the least amount of stuff during the day and still do okay on the weekend? You know, like I think that speaks a lot about who you are as a person and kind of, you know, that drive. I think that's great. So.
Or maybe it's just because I want to avoid all of the like chores at home and errands that we need to do. Sorry, honey, I need to go training. You have to clean the apartment.
That could be too. That's true. I do the same thing where I'm like, no, I got to work out. I can't mow the lawn right now. Or so. Actually, I mowed the lawn yesterday in a weight vest to get some additional training in while I walked around.
Training for OCR, really, like anything you do, you can justify it as a training in some way.
Yeah, I've done I have a 70-pound rec bag that I put on my shoulders sometimes and try to mow the lawn, and I usually make it about half the lawn before I get frustrated because it's very awkward to get that onto your shoulders and keep the lawnmower going at the same time.
Sounds like like the actual 10-back carry in a race.
Yeah.
When you get really frustrated halfway through.
Yeah, the weight vest was a lot easier. It was almost no additional challenge. So I think I need to go back to the rec bag.
Yeah.
For future training. Cool. So let's talk like distant future. So this year you're doing a lot of the series. Obviously you did really well last year. You're on the pro team for the second year in a row. What are any kind of big plans for the future, or are you just kind of taking it year by year, you know, day by day type thing?
I'm definitely taking it year by year. I feel like So a lot of people usually say like, oh, you like with working out so much and racing so much, you're gonna burn out eventually. But I guess I have a little bit different view on like burning out and racing a lot. Because I don't think I'll be doing that until I'm like 50 and 60. So I would rather put everything I have now into it and see how far that gets me, and try to do it for as long as I can at doing my best. And then when I can no longer do it, then eventually I will go find a real job, and or maybe not, we'll see. But it's not a thing that I don't think I'll do that for like my entire life. So I'm just trying to do the best I can right now and do it a year at a time and just see what new challenges there are, because this year is already so different than last year with all the new series and the 8-hour races and the 24-hour races I'm doing. And then who knows what's going to be next year, because I'm pretty sure both Spartan and Tough Mudder will add more things to what they're doing, and there'll be new race series and things like that. So really, like, my bucket list is really long of things I want to do. So I'm trying to do as best as I can with putting all of the work in, and then just see how long that lasts for. I don't think I'm saving anything for the distant future, because you never know if that's going to happen.
That's a good point. So can we get a couple of the items off your bucket list, maybe? Just a sneak peek of what might be coming down the future?
Yeah, so definitely the 24-hour Iceland race. That is probably the nearest future bucket list item that I'm pretty sure is going to happen. And then also coming from an ultra running background and now living in Boulder where there's a bunch of ultra runners, I do want to do some of the famous 100-mile races, the Western States 100-mile race. Then there's the one in Mont Blanc. That's also pretty insane. So there's ultra running goals that I have on my bucket list. And then also another thing I really want to try is the Barkley Marathons. I know Amelia did it this year, and I was pretty jealous of that attempt. But I think that will require a lot of learning how to navigate, because I could get lost on a trail, and when there's no trail, getting lost is even easier. So that's definitely more of a distant future when I'm done with OCR, or I guess when I'm taking a break from OCR. But right now, I feel like there's still a lot to achieve in both Spartan and Tough Mudder World, so I'm kind of focusing on that short term.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Barkley Marathons, I mean, it's a land navigation course. It's a long-distance land navigation course. So,
yeah.
I think a lot of people, they'll want to do it that may not have the – I think there's a lot of more people who could finish it that have the physical capability, but they're just missing that land navigation component, You kind of need that both together to be able to be successful.
Yeah.
So, and then I also agree with, the Spartan and Tough Mudder with the number of series and changes, it's it's almost overwhelming. It's hard, if you take a break from social media for a week or two and you go back, you're like, wait, there's another series? What the hell's going on?
Yeah. I guess another thing that I'm not doing this year that is on my bucket list is the Greece trifecta. I really wanted to do this year, but it's a week before the World's Toughest Mudder, so I'm not sure if it's the most amazing idea to do it this year. So that's probably my next year's bucket list, is doing the trifecta weekend in Greece.
Yeah, same here. I want to do that one, but again, the timing is terrible for World's Toughest. So
yeah.
My family's from Greece, or my mom's side, or both sides of my family's from Greece. So
oh, nice.
Going back there, I've been back there for vacation. It's nice, but
yeah.
I think doing a Spartan race in Sparta in Greece it's kind of a cool thing.
Oh,
so
I absolutely agree.
Ray, it's been great. Thank you so much. Before we go, any people or companies, things you want to thank or shout-outs you want to give? Yeah,
definitely. Want to give out a shout-out to my sponsors. So I have Ascent Protein with their recovery protein, both whey for after workouts and casein for before bed. And I do think that keeps my body running quite a bit better than what it was last year. So I take it every day, and I love how it tastes. And then I have Endurelite, which is a pre-workout supplement, which makes me fast during that first mile where I used to die last year. So I love what they make too, and the guy there, Matt Mosman, is great with answering all of my questions all the time. And then I'm also part of Mud Gear team, so I love their socks, kind of live in their socks. I ran a road race in Mud Gear socks today. I'm pretty sure I was the only one there, bringing OCR to roads a little bit. I have Brave Soldier too, so they make first aid kits. They actually make Band-Aids with Spartan logo on them, which are super cool. So I wear Band-Aids just because they look so awesome. And they make this really, really good healing ointment, which really heals your cuts super fast, which I think is very important when you're doing back-to-back races. You don't want to go in those mud pits with open wounds. And so just using that helps a lot to be able to do it, every other week and not worry about infections and stuff.
Cool. Definitely some good recommendations there. Casein protein, I'm a huge fan of. I've been taking that for, it's been years I've been taking casein. I've been using Ascent, but that's okay. Different brand, but
it's
I haven't actually tried their stuff, but they seem like a pretty good company based off of what I've looked at them from online.
The products are really, really clean, so I do like to understand every single thing that's on a label. So they only have 5 things in it, and there's no added sugar. They actually use monk fruit, which is this really nice fruit that you have to go to China to get it. So it tastes really good, and it's good for you. So it's kind of like my end of the day treat before I go to bed.
Nice. Do you mix it with water or
I used
something
to mix
else?
it with milk because I love creamy stuff, but I need to supplement iron because I'm pretty low on it. So I tested with Inside Tracker. They also helped me figure out my blood work and stuff. And I noticed that supplementing iron actually stopped being efficient once I started drinking a lot of milk at the same time, and that's because when you're trying to absorb iron and calcium actually bind to the same molecule, so you can't really do both at the same time, and calcium is much more aggressive, so it will pretty much displace iron. So even if you're supplementing, you're not doing much good. So I decided it was worth to go to water. It's still good, but it's not quite as creamy as with milk, but I guess, little things that matter a lot.
Have you tried almond milk or cashew milk?
It's just, I did try. It's not as tasty, and it's almost as bad. So I figured if I'm doing this for reals, I might as well live with water.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm a fan of the almond. I usually use almond milk with the casein.
Okay.
It makes it a little creamier, like you said, and
yeah.
I think it tastes a little better. But
if only almonds didn't have calcium in it.
Yeah. And then, again, before we go, you mentioned Inside Tracker. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I test with them every few months. What they do is they take the blood and then they do the testing for all the different biomarkers that are related to just overall health and then also athletic performance. So what I like about it is it actually looks at how much you exercise and what kind of exercise you do, and then it gives you the recommended ranges based on that. Because when I was iron deficient, I felt so tired the whole time, and my doctor was I think you're good. But then when I tested with Inside Tracker for a female athlete, my levels were actually really, really low. So I just kind of use it now to see if my supplementation is working. And also it's a good way to see if I'm actually recovering well. So I tested about 10 days after my 8-hour toughest race. And that was right before Big Bear. And the purpose of that was I wanted to see if 2 weeks was enough for me to recover, because if you don't recover, then you're just kind of digging yourself deeper into a hole, and once you realize you're in a hole, it's too late to climb out. So it's just kind of a fast way to tell what your body is lacking before you start feeling it, because once you feel it, it usually takes a while to correct for it. So it's just kind of my guidance to what to supplement and what I'm getting enough in my diet.
And to get those results, is that a take-home kit, or is that something you go out and have to go to a doctor for? What's the process there?
You just go to a blood drawing center. So usually I use Quest Diagnostic, which is usually in Safeways. So there's one like half a mile from where I am at, and then they send it over to Insight Tracker, and I get my results within a week. It's like super fast. And then it kind of like saves them on your profile, so you can actually see how your values are changing over time, and how that correlates with how your training is changing or what you're supplementing.
Cool. Well, I think some great information there, and definitely something for those of you people looking to take their training and performance to the next level, a good option to look at it in the future. And I think that's about it. So, Rhea, thanks again for coming on the podcast. If you want to hear more about Rhea and her training, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I interviewed her in the back of Mudrun Guide's ultra-ocr Bible. So pick up a copy of that. It's available off of the website, teamstrengthspeed.com, in the online store. So you can check that out there. And I think that's about it. I will see you this weekend in Michigan for Toughest Mudder.
That's right. I'm excited. See you there.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.